My mother shot me a cold glare, her hand firmly resting on the wheel. "You won't see a single cent," she said. I smiled, standing up from my chair. "Then don't expect a single cent from me either." Hey, Reddit. Before we jump into the story, a quick heads up. This is a brand new channel, and we're putting in real effort to bring you amazing stories. If you're enjoying it, hit that subscribe button and help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Now, let's dive in. I never imagined I'd reach a point where I had to draw a boundary with my own mother. But that evening, sitting at the dinner table, the truth hit me like a punch to the chest. It had been a long time coming. Years of her clear preference for my younger brother, brushing off everything I did, and treating me like a dependable one. The one who never needed help, only gave it. But when she placed her palm over Dad's will, looked me dead in the eye, and uttered those cold words, something in me broke. It was supposed to be a quiet, respectful dinner. Just me, my mom, and Jake, my younger brother. Dad had passed away a year ago, and things had been unraveling since. Mom had always leaned toward Jake, but with Dad gone, the favoritism had grown into something unavoidable. She babied him, made excuses for his bad decisions, and praised his recklessness as ambition, while demanding perfection from me. I had built everything on my own, earned a degree with honors, climbed a ladder to a six-figure job, and never once asked my parents for money. Meanwhile, Jake had burned through every cent ever handed to him. He chased doomed business ideas, collected debt like baseball cards, and always assumed someone else, usually me, would clean it up. That night, over steak and a bottle of wine, the conversation inevitably drifted to Dad's will. I knew where it was going, but I let her speak. She launched into the usual speech. How Jake still had promise, how he just needed a bit more support, how Dad would have wanted him to have a second chance. Then she twisted the knife, saying it was only fair that the inheritance go to the child who needed it most. And of course, she tried guilt. "You've already made it," she said. "Money isn't everything." And then came the final blow. Her hand landed on the will, her eyes like ice. "You're not getting a single cent." I looked at her silently. Her words were a punch, but I didn't flinch. Jake, sitting across from me, was practically gloating, spinning his fork between his fingers like this was all just entertainment. Maybe, in his mind, he'd already won. Maybe he had. He'd played her like a violin for years. But I was done playing along. "All right," I said, a slow grin forming as I set my utensils down carefully. She seemed momentarily unsure, surprised I wasn't arguing. I stood, straightened my jacket, and locked eyes with her. "Then don't expect a single cent from me either." She blinked, clearly caught off guard. Jake muttered something sarcastic. But I ignored him. I had bailed this family out too many times. Paid bills they couldn't cover. Sent Jake money more times than I could count. Been there for Mom when she had no one else. But none of it had ever been enough. I was always the fallback plan, the one they leaned on because I could take it, not because they valued me. I turned and walked toward the door. She called my name, but her voice lacked its usual sharpness. For once, I saw something behind her eyes, panic, maybe realization. She must have thought I'd never leave, that I'd always show up, pick up the pieces. But not this time. Outside, the air was cool against my face. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sad. I felt free. What I didn't realize then was that my decision wouldn't just affect me. It would spark a chain of events neither my mother nor Jake saw coming. They were about to learn that cutting me out of Dad's wasn't just about money. It was about losing something far more valuable. The moment I stepped out of that house, I left the weight of obligation behind. No more emergency wire transfers. No more swooping in when Jake screwed up. No more pretending we were a family, in anything but name. I had spent my entire life trying to earn something I never would, my mother's approval. I thought if I just accomplished enough, gave enough, stayed steady enough, she'd finally see me the way she saw Jake, as someone who mattered. But she never would, and I meant what I said. Over the next few months, I stopped paying the bills I used to cover silently. Jake's panic texts for quick help went unanswered. Mom pretended at first that it didn't bother her, but the cracks began to show. She called, trying to act casual, checking in, but I could hear the strain in her voice. When I didn't engage, the voicemail started passive-aggressive lectures about family loyalty and how I was abandoning them in their time of need. I didn't respond, and then things fell apart. Jake defaulted on a loan, one he'd secured by putting up Mom's house as collateral. He thought she'd have me to fall back on, like always, but without my support, the bank came knocking. Mom's house, the same one she proudly said would one day be Jake's, was suddenly at risk, and this time, no one was coming to save them. She came to my office one morning, uninvited. My assistant looked nervous when she told me an older woman was waiting in the lobby. I knew who it was. When I stepped out and saw my mother sitting there, she looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. I almost felt sympathy. Almost. She skipped the small talk, launched straight into the situation. Jake had messed up. She didn't know the full story. She never thought things would spiral like this. She told me the house was all she had left of Dad, that she couldn't bear to lose it. Then, finally, she looked at me and asked if I could help. I leaned back in my chair, arms folded. Help. That was all I'd ever been to her. Not a son, not someone she respected, just a safety net. So I asked her one thing. If it were me in Jake's position, drowning in debt, needing the inheritance to survive, would you have chosen me? Her silence told me everything. I stood, just like I did that night at dinner. I have a future to protect. You made your decision. Now you live with it. As I walked away, she called out my name again. Her voice trembled, but I didn't turn around. Jake lost the house. Mom downsized into a small apartment, far from the life she had once imagined. And me, I flourished. For the first time, I wasn't carrying anyone else's burden. I was finally living for myself, and I never looked back.